Hello. Good news. The movie Cats. It's just the musical, Cats. And Cats is dumb. Oh, milk!
Stealing focus!
Hello, everybody. My name is Emily Clark, and about 24 hours ago, I went to Universal City Walk with a couple of my friends, and we saw Cats on opening day. There were no other important movies coming out, apparently. So before I get into things, I have to take this jacket off because it's really hot. Why do cats need to wear fur coats? They already have them. So, cats. Okay. Okay, so some business first. I just did a video on the history of Cats the Musical. I'll post it up there. And I, in my infinite aged wisdom, confused the years 2006 with 2016 because I read 2016 as 2006. And this is happening to me more and more these days. So a commenter pointed it out. So the revival of Cats was in 2016, not 2006. I don't know why I made that mistake. I was living in New York at the time, just pfft. This is what happens in your late 30s, fellow millennials. So I'm sort of familiar with Cats. I, like most theater kids, I know a good amount of the songs. I saw it when I was young, but I'm not like a big Cats head. I'm not a big, I don't know what do Cats fans call themselves? Like pussy willows? So I know of it kind of, but I couldn't break down the minutia of every lyric or all the plot points. I don't think I could remember the plot points, but I'm fairly familiar with it, and I kind of boned up on it a little bit in the past day to kind of remind myself. I'm also like a tepid Andrew Lloyd Webber person. I'm a Sondheim gal. You all know this. This is very well documented my whole life. But there are some Andrew Lloyd Webber things I like, but overall he's kind of like not really my bag. I'm very much like a golden age of musicals person, like introspective Sondheim chorus line stuff from the 70s. But that being said, I'm a sucker for a good Andrew Lloyd Webber melody pop ballad. Same with like Les Mis and all that stuff. It's his evil genius nature is that he can write one hell of a hook. So that's what Sir Andrew has always had going for him. But before I get into the obviously fun stuff to talk about with Cats 2019, I want to talk about film adaptations of stage musicals. Musical theater started as a medium on the stage. It evolved from vaudeville, and, well, I do a whole history lesson about it, you can see it, but it evolved from vaudeville, minstrel shows, operettas, a whole bunch of elements that came together, in New York in the melting pot in the early 1900s, and musical theater was like born out of it. And when the talkies came around in the end of the 1920s, there was a big mass exodus of Broadway stars to Hollywood, and they started adapting stage musicals into films and making movie musicals on their own. But there is a difference between the stage and the screen. And it's in so many ways. But when it comes to musical theater, depending on the show, there's an amount of translation that needs to happen. Some musicals you can put almost directly from the stage to the screen and they work. Like Rodgers and Hammerstein musicals are like that. Oklahoma Carousel, Sound of Music, King and I, South Pacific, they all make very minimal changes to the source material. They might do some cutting, but that's about it. But some musicals are so theatrical, for lack of a better word, that there needs to be a certain amount of adaptation when they're put on the screen. And some musicals I don't think could ever work on the screen. So I just want to mention like a few examples of adaptations done right. And when I think of stage to screen adaptations that are done well, I think of the movie Chicago. The stage version of Chicago was developed by Bob Fosse, and he was really nostalgic for the early days of Broadway, because that was like his childhood, vaudeville and all that evolved from it. So Chicago was a very dark and subversive, and at least in terms of the 96 revival, which is still running on Broadway, it's very minimal. It's very minimalist. It's all about the storytelling. But these songs, they're all presented like vaudeville acts. You know, Miss Velma Kelly in an act of desperation. And it works on stage because you just buy it. You're already at the theater, in a theater, watching it. So it's not that weird when, you know, girls with feathers doing the Ziegfeld Follies thing and All I Care About, or Mr. Cellophane happens. It all kind of makes sense. But in film, there's always been this, because you're not in the theater, because there's that disconnect of the screen, there is a certain amount of realism you expect from a movie musical. Like, everything has to actually be happening there. And that's why the movie version of Chicago takes the songs, so they're just happening in Roxy's head. So the other characters don't hear them. But they're still in the same place in the story. They're still performed by the same characters that are in the stage show, and they still drive the story forward and give you more plot development and character development. So the movie version of Chicago is different from the stage version in that way, but it still has the heart of the show, and really gets the whole point across in its own way. You could conversely say, like, there are movie musicals that have been adapted to the stage, like Wizard of Oz, Singin' in the Rain, Meet Me in St. Louis, White Christmas. Those were all movie musicals first that took, well, geez, I think almost all of them took songs from Tin Pan Alley and the vaudeville days and compiled them into movie musicals. And they were brought to the stage later. An example of a company that mostly does this well is Disney, because they created wonderful, memorable movie musicals that are animated and then have brought a lot of them to the stage. And obviously their most successful one is The Lion King. And the smartest thing they did in The Lion King was not to try to make it so that people are walking around on all fours playing as animals during the show. You know, it's not like when you go to a theme park and you see that Beauty and the Beast live where it's just like people in big mascot costumes and it just feels weird. So The Lion King on stage, it's all puppetry and costuming and physicality that evokes these animals. And when you're watching something like that on a stage live, audiences buy it. You buy it. You allow it. And so now we get to Cats. So Cats on stage, it's, you know, it's humans walking around acting like cats and dancing like cats and telling stories about themselves as jellicle cats. And Cats is dumb. It is a dumb musical, but you never sit there watching it going, I don't believe they're cats. They're not really cats. I can't enjoy this. It's the world of theater and musical theater. There's also the point that in stage shows, you, at least in modern musicals from, like, let's say Showboat, okay, let's say from Oklahoma on, okay, so 1943 on, modern book musicals use the music to tell the story, okay? There are very few just musical reviews like we used to have back in the old day. I would argue the equivalent of that now would be like jukebox musicals. I don't know, they still do musical reviews. I saw Fosse on Broadway, but they're not so much like the driving force of Broadway. They're nostalgia bombs. So Cats on stage really doesn't have a plot. I mean, the cats are gathered together for a reason. They're there because they're all deciding who gets to be reincarnated into the next of their 9 lives. And the whole show is the cats just introducing themselves, and you kind of just go along for the ride and enjoy the music and the dancing. And it's fun to watch these actors, you know, physicalize what it is to be a cat, because hey, you're watching this on the internet. We love cat videos. We like cats. Cats are fun.
Craig Jr., are you a jellicle cat? Yeah, are you a jellicle cat? Meow, 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 meow.
And not every musical has to have a plot, per se. I actually think a film adaptation of Company would be really interesting because there is no plot to Company. It's snapshots of a person's life. There's a framing device, the idea of Bobby's birthday, but it's a character study. But Cats isn't really a character study either. There's a lot of telling and not showing, okay? And again, there's only so much you can do on stage, which is why the songs about the cats always kind of landed flat for me, because they're telling me about all the stuff they can do. And I'm like, cool, you must be a cool cat. The idea of adapting cats for the screen, to me, like, if I were a director, I would be like, wow, the possibilities are endless because of the medium we're transferring this show into. We could animate the whole thing. CGI is just so amazing nowadays. We could do motion capture still. We can still have all these celebrity voices, but we can show all these cats in fantastic places and doing amazing things. But the film decided not to go that way. They decided on this weird, like, medium in-between place. There's a dog barking. My neighbor's dog never shuts up. He knows I'm talking about cats. So, forgive me. So instead of making it all animated, they went with live actors. Okay, the stage version does that. That's a choice, but we're doing it. But instead of going with the iconic costumes, they went for this CGI look that was so, but it's like way too realistic, which gives this weird mush up. Like in the stage show, these cats, they have great, like, big, all this fur coming out like of their heads this way, and lots of cool designs all over their bodies, and it's just so cool to look at. And in this, there's a lot of like cats that are just like very skinny head, like this with ears, which makes for a weird look. And when the dancing happens, there's this thing where sometimes you feel like you can feel the face like shifting around on the body. And it's unsettling for sure. Now, I watched this whole movie, and don't get me wrong, I laughed a lot, but I was kind of expecting a little bit more of a train wreck. But then I realized everyone is reacting like crazy because they're just seeing Cats for the first time. Like, all of us theater folk are like, yep, this is Cats. This is just Cats. This is how stupid Cats is. And look, if you love Cats, I'm not gonna shame you or say you're wrong or something. But I think even people who like really like Cats, like, they know what it is. They know what it is. And that's okay. Like, your trash is your trash. Like, you know, have at it. Maybe this film wouldn't work if it wasn't just like total trash. I don't know. So in the stage show, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, like in the comments, like point me in the right direction. I tried to look up what I could. But it's really just the cats coming together. There's no real reason other than they all want to die. So in the movie version, they make Victoria kind of like the audience avatar, which I think is a good choice. They give the film a reason for them to be singing all these songs. So there's this really interesting opening where Victoria is abandoned by her owner and thrown from a bag into the trash in an alley. Okay, so that's a reason to get her there, abandoned kitty cat. She doesn't seem like particularly sad or affected by the fact that she was abandoned. But the cats like all kind of surround her and they sing Jellicle Cats. And that's a good excuse to sing that opening number. They're like, "Ooh, this is what we are." And they are like, "What's your name?" And she says, "Victoria." And they're like, "Your real name." And they go into the fact that all Jellicle Cats have like a name that the humans don't know. And so they turn it into this loose arc where Victoria is like trying to be accepted by the cats. By the Jellicle Cats. At least that's what I think is the thing. They only mention it like once and the rest is her just like watching other cats do stuff. And then at the very end, Judi Dench Deuteronomy is like, "I think you really are a Jellicle Cat." And that's the end of the movie. And I was like, wait, so what's her cat name? It's not like Vic Trizzlebizzle or, you know, Flumbum Floppity Floop? Like, what is her cat name? I thought that's what we were going towards. Okay, so that's one thing they add. The other kind of framing device they add is the use of Macavity, played by Idris Elba. This is probably the best, like, trashy part they add. First of all, I'm really curious as to what Idris Elba was wearing during this. I guess it had to be a motion capture suit because it just looks like his skin sometimes. It just looks like he's naked Idris Elba with cat ears. I'm not complaining. So he's coming around and, like, every time one of the cats at the beginning, like, introduces himself, he, like, kidnaps them in a puff of smoke because he's trying to, like, whittle down the competition so that he can be the cat who's chosen. But I think they did this because some of the celebrities just didn't want to be in the ensemble. Legit. Every cat he kidnaps, with the exception of Skimbleshanks, who is not a celebrity as far as I could tell, he was an amazing tap dancer, is one of the, like, named stars. First, it's Rebel Wilson as Jenny Annie Dots, and she does this song with these nightmare fuel mice and cockroaches, which, again, that's from the stage show. She sings about how she trains them. But they're not just, like, animated mice. They're mice with, like, little children faces. They're, like, not even as cute as, like, the rats you would see at the Nutcracker. It's gross. So she gets kidnapped by Macavity. Then James Corden comes out as Bustopher Jones, and he does his thing. The two of them ad-lib a lot, which, okay, fine. Like, there's no real text. They didn't really want to add that much, so it's fine. I think Rebel had, like, one or two that made me laugh. And then he gets tricked by Macavity and taken away. Same with Gus, with Ian McKellen. Okay, I will say, Sir Ian is probably the best in it. He looks the best because his song is just, what is that song called? God, these songs. Gus the Theater Cat. Is that just what his song is called? God. Okay, so Gus, he does his song and he's, like, in a trench coat and he's got the fur coming out this way. So he looks, like, really cute and he's not dancing around. He's just telling a story. And it was the only time in the film where I could maybe, like, understand what the song was about, because there wasn't a lot of action. It was just, like, a good actor acting a song, but he gets spirited away. And I will give it up for Jason Derulo. As Jason Derulo as he was with the ensemble the whole time. He didn't pull any diva stuff, at least, I mean, in terms of that. He was with the ensemble of cats the whole movie, dancing with them, singing backup, and I had to, like, give him props for that, for all those celebs who got, you know, magicked away. Old Deuteronomy, played by Judi Dench, who was supposed to play Grizabella, like, way back in the day. Like, she did it, like, the workshops of it pre-West End, pre-Broadway, and then she, like, busted her Achilles and then couldn't do it. And then Elaine Page got it. So this, you know, they were like, we'll give you Old Deuteronomy, which is usually played by a guy. There's no reason why Old Deuteronomy couldn't be a girl. So I like it. And I actually think she looks okay too. Again, because I think when they fill out the fur, it makes it look a little better. And it is cute when she's watching Gus's song. She has some cute, like, facial reactions. I don't know. I liked it. I liked that moment. But then she gets kidnapped by Macavity somehow. I don't remember how. Oh, it's after his song. Okay. Wait a second. I have to backtrack. Because then we get Taylor Swift. They give Macavity that song to just her. She's I always forget. Bombalurina. There's no Demeter, or if there is a Demeter, she doesn't sing with her. And she shows up like an hour into the movie maybe, and she's there for like 5 minutes. Like, everything you've seen in the trailers is like from this one song she does, and that's like it. So she comes down on the moon, she's wearing character shoes, she's pouring catnip on everyone, and she sings Macavity, Macavity, and it's fine. So, like, she really didn't want to be there. So you kind of are surprised to see her, because all the other cats, you meet them pretty early on, and she just appears out of nowhere. And then they kidnap Old Deuteronomy. And all the cats are being held on a barge on the Thames. And Ray Winstone is there as Growl Tiger, who barely does anything, who's also like Macavity's minion. And then they do like a thing where they all escape. They push Growl Tiger off the boat. And then, back at, with the rest of the cats are like, what are we gonna do? They magicked them away. And they're like, we have a magic cat. It's Mr. Mistopheles. And they sing Mr. Mistopheles and they magic old Deuteronomy back. Old Deuteronomy's lost for like 3 minutes and they managed to get her back. So there we go. And then there's Grizabella, played by Jennifer Hudson. Now, Jennifer Hudson is going hard. Like, she has no right to be giving 110%, but she is. Like, she's not phoning it in. She had, like, snot coming down her nose because she was crying, like, in every scene. She really is showing up. And they don't really explain why they don't like her. It's just that she's old and used to be a diva. So I guess it's like, I don't know, how we shun women of a certain age in our society. I don't know. I guess that doesn't work with old Deuteronomy being a girl now. She comes in and sings Memory, and it's great. It's really good. And she gets chosen. I should mention that instead of being in a junkyard like in the stage show, they're in a theater. They're in the Egyptian theater. So she gets put in a chandelier that apparently has a hot air balloon on top. And she levitates to the Heaviside layer. And then the climax of McCavity's story is he grabs onto the balloon and he's like, I want to go. And then he falls and then he like lands on a statue. And that's it. And she flies off into the clouds. Okay, so going back to the physicality stuff, the stuff that works on stage but doesn't necessarily work on screen. When you're in a big theater and a big Broadway house and you're seeing these actors on stage all acting like cats and sniffing and reacting, you buy it because, again, it's theater and theater's a different medium. And it's cool to watch these actors like kind of be cats. It's like seeing Avenue Q on stage, right? When you see Avenue Q on stage, you see the puppeteers, but you don't even notice them, okay? However, if Avenue Q were ever adapted into a film, there's no way they could do that without like the proscenium right there. It would be like Sesame Street, which it should be if it was a film. But the medium of the stage makes it so that you have to do that. And it adds to the performance. Watching all these actors up close in these weird CGI furry bodies, all sniffing real close to each other and having their tails go erect and like rubbing close but not quite rubbing, it's sexual in a way that I never considered the stage show was sexual. I mean, the stage show is always a little winky sexual. Like when you're a kid, it goes over your head, but this movie, like, it's a lot. It's all over the place. I also didn't realize how much the scoring of Cats just bothers me. It's very plinky plunky synth, which it was the 80s, so it worked. But in the movie, there's these, it's when they're all dancing at the Jellicle Ball and they're all looking up the moon and it's this big triumphant dancing moment and it's really, really cool to look at. And the underscoring is just this like plinky plunky crap. And it might as well be like a karaoke track. Like that's how crappy it sounds. And again, if you're going to adapt something for the screen that's so weird like this, I don't know why they couldn't. It's 2019. We have such better synth technology now. I don't know why they couldn't zhuzh it up a bit. Oh, and then this is the other weird thing. So I know in the stage show they have stuff on their, like every part of their body, including their hands and feet, because they have to dance. They're not like barefoot on the stage, okay? But they have stuff on them. In this, it was so unsettling because they had their hands, but there was nothing cat-like. It's like the Katniss would... I volunteer's tribute. The Katniss would start like here, and then it was like human hand. And same with their feet. It was just, you'd see these human toes. And it's like, why throw on a tail and ears, but then have these weird human appendages? Ugh. But I think a lot of people are just like, this is what you theater people like? And I'm like, no, this is what the tourists wanted to see. They just wanted to see something that, well, at first it was like just something to see that you didn't really have to think while you watched it. You know, you have to go see a museum and then you have to go to a Broadway show. Then you gotta have dinner at Sardi. You know, you have to pack all this stuff into your New York trip. And then it just kept going, and Memory was such a popular song, it was such a powerhouse that that show became so successful that it started running long enough, and then the point of seeing it was you gotta see the longest running Broadway show. So I think a good amount of people watching this movie are reacting and are seeing Cats for the first time and are like, you musical theater people are crazy. And I'm like, no, we just wanted work. But then there's shit they add into this movie that is hilarious and so silly. My favorite thing is McCavity. Every time he disappears in a poof of smoke, he like says something. So there's one poof where it goes, meow, and there's another one where it goes, McCavity! Sexiest man alive, Idris Elba disappearing in a poof of smoke going, McCavity! You can't. It's so weird. When they're in the Egyptian theater, it's like everything is scale to them. But then when they're like dancing around with Skimbleshanks or playing around with Mungo Jerry and Rumpleteazer, these names, then everything gets big and then they're little. Now, I don't know the score intricately enough to know too much about what they changed. I know they made cuts, and I know they cut down on some of the cats. I did hear from some people on Twitter that they ruined Mungo Jerry and Rumpleteazer's song, and I listened to them and I compared them, and it's an odd change. I feel like they did it just to speed up the time, because in the stage show it's like Mungo Jerry and Rumpleteazer, but then the movie version it's like Mungo Jerry and Rumpleteazer. Da, 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 da. It's like a weird tempo change. And I feel like they only did it just because they wanted to make the movie shorter. I don't know. Okay, so Francesca Hayward plays Victoria. And I think she makes sense. I like that they like discovered a ballerina to play that part. Okay, Francesca Hayward, Robbie Fairchild, who played Munkustrap, and Laurie Davidson, who played Mr. Mistopheles. They were in it like the whole time. They were kind of like, there was like a weird implied like cat love triangle with them. I think she ended up, I think Mistopheles was her PETA. Wow, that was 2 Hunger Games references in my Cats video. But it's not really, again, if they wanted to create drama, that's something they could have dove into, but it's kind of like subtext. The 3 of them are the stars of it. All these other people might as well be cameos. Like Taylor Swift is pretty much a cameo. So Francesca Hayward is good. I think she's very captivating. She's really beautiful to look at. And with the white fur, like there's some weirdness, but it is beautiful to see her beautiful lines. And the dancing she does is really nice. And then when she's paired with Munkustrap, Robbie Fairchild, who also is a very amazing dancer, very dynamic. And then Mr. Mistopheles, Laurie Davidson. Okay, so he was Will on the show Will, about Will Shakespeare. Will, I didn't watch it. I thought he was cute. I think in the stage show, Mistopheles is a bit more like bombastic and confident, and he was a little more nervous and cute. And I liked that. There were enough confident cats in it. I liked kind of having a little change there. A change I wish they had made, which it should have, the movie should have ended with Memory and with Grizabella going up to the Heaviside Layer. But instead, it ends like the stage show does, which is when Old Deuteronomy does this thing called the Addressing of Cats and does this stupid, stupid poem to the audience about how a cat is not a dog and like, I don't know. And I guess it works on stage, but in the movie, it felt like all the energy got sucked out. You're triumphantly watching this cat fly off in the sky. Then all the kitties are on one of those lions at Trafalgar Square looking at her. Then Judi Dench turns right to the camera and she's like, let me tell you about cats. And the other weirdest thing is that like, it's this shot of her and like Munkustrap is there and Victoria's here and Mistopheles is here and she's doing her whole thing. And the 3 of them are like doing that around her the whole time. So I'm trying to focus on Judi Dench, but instead I'm looking at these cats around her going, like they're turned on, like they're gonna, like they're in heat. So I feel they should have made that edit. I don't know if they cut very much else. Maybe a couple things. But in the grand tradition of stage musicals being adapted to film, at least in the past, 20 years. They add an original song, to get that sweet, sweet Best Original Song Oscar. And this movie has a song called Beautiful Ghosts. It's about nothing. It's about nothing. I guess it's supposed to be like some development about Victoria, how she was like, I was abandoned and now I'm accepted by this family. But nothing before that really shows you that she wants that or cares about it. And bless Francesca Hayward's heart, like, she's really a beautiful dancer. And like, she's not like a bad singer, but like, she's a dancer who sings. Yeah, I don't, and then it plays during the credits and Taylor Swift sings it, who's an actual singer. And then you can kind of hear like, oh, this is how it was supposed to sound. But it's still like just a stupid, unnecessary song. They kind of do it to give her more connection with Grizabella, which I didn't mind that. I just wish it had been a better song. I wish that instead of focusing on McCavity for this, they had focused on her and fleshed out her story. And then made it about her finding her name. I feel like that was something actually there that they didn't take advantage of. So I don't know, you guys. Like, it's a lot of fun. It's a camp-tastic delight. This is, let's see, the 4th Andrew Lloyd Webber film adaptation. Okay, so it's Jesus Christ Superstar, Evita, Phantom, and Cats. I would say that probably the biggest problem of all of those is that they stick too close to the source material. Evita's probably my favorite out of all of them. Evita's my favorite Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. But it has problems. And the movie, it's not perfect. It's kind of boring more than anything. Jesus Christ Superstar is like, from the 70s. And it's kind of in its time. But the big problem with Phantom was that Andrew Lloyd Webber was so involved. He was like the producer, and he didn't allow any changes to happen to make it more cinematic. And I wonder how much influence he had on Cats, because I'm curious if Tom Hooper was like, yeah, I'm gonna go with these CGI things, or if Sir Andrew was like, they have to look like this. I don't know. I really don't know. I feel like if you've seen Cats, you'll have fun. I saw it with friends who are theater people. I kind of want to see it again with someone who's not a theater person, with someone who doesn't really know musicals. I don't know if I want to see it with someone who hates musicals, but someone who doesn't really know about musicals would be kind of fun. Because already the reactions I'm seeing from people, it's like crazy, But, it's still the show. It still has these songs that just go on and on and on and on and on and just, I complimented Jason Derulo, but I couldn't understand anything he was singing in the Rum Tum Tugger. Couldn't understand a thing. This happens with me in the stage show too. I mentioned it already, like just the rattling off of a bunch of things these cats can do without actually showing you. And so then it's just information that passes by and you're like, why do I care? And this kind of just did the same thing, when they could have used the medium to their advantage. For all the stupid, bonkers shit they added, I guess they just blew their budget on the bodysuits and couldn't be bothered to come up with any cool locations or interesting scenarios that meow. But this is the thing about the score for Cats, is that it's these melodies you either can't latch onto at all, or it's this chorus that's just repeated over and over and over, or just 2 lines. Like they do that when Old Deuteronomy arrives. I don't remember what it is, but they just keep saying the same thing over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. And then by then, the audience is like, we're singing along because we know it now, and I love this show. Ah! Did you know that Andrew Lloyd Webber and Stephen Sondheim have the same birthday? It's crazy, right? So whatever, even if the movie gets all the worst reviews in the world, it's gonna make a bunch of money because we're all seeing it and we're all talking about it. And this $3 billion musical is just gonna rack up more dough for Sir Andrew. What's the next Andrew Lloyd Webber movie musical coming out? Sunset Boulevard? Okay, well, that's at least about Hollywood. So here's hoping, and they're gonna have Glenn Close, so knock on wood. But yeah, go see Cats. Go see it with some friends. My theater was kind of quiet. It wasn't a very rowdy theater, so if you can get yourself a rowdy theater, I recommend it. I anticipate some late night showings of this. I mean, this is gonna become a cult classic, I'm pretty sure. And make sure you have a drink or 5. So yeah, I hope you like Cats. Or at least I hope you had fun. But as for me, I gotta get out of here. My cavity!
Yeah, you're a good singer. Meow. Yeah. You gonna be in Cats?